during our Zoom meetings. So today's objective for math is where we left off when we were together at school. Some of you guys in other 5th grade classes might have done this one already, so it might be a good review for you. So the objective is I can use models to multiply a fraction by a whole number. I can use models, which means pictures, to multiply a fraction by a whole number. And today our essential question is, how do pictures help us with our reasoning, with our thinking? When things become kind of challenging, how come some of us, how do we benefit from sketching a picture of it? So we're going to be thinking about that as we get through this lesson today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break apart some vocabulary here, okay? I can use models, which means pictures, to multiply a fraction by a whole number. When I see the word multiply, it reminds me of simpler concepts that I've already done, like 2 times 3. And what does it mean when we memorize 2 times 3 is 6? Well, if I write it down, what that means is you're using one number over and over as many times as said. So if it's 3 times 2 is 6, that means 3 plus 3. If it's 2 times 3 is 6, it means 2 plus 2 plus 2. I have to write it 3 times. So I'm going to just write down what that looks like in simpler terms. 2 and 2 and 2, and we know that will come out to a product of 6. So 2 written 3 times is 6. Or your brain might look at it like this. 3 written twice. And then we're going to add them up. This marker's a little funky. I'll change that one out. So, we know that 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. We know that 3 plus 3 gives us our product of 6, or we should say our sum of 6 when we're adding. So that's what multiplication means. It means taking a digit and writing it multiple times to come up with some kind of a solution. Okay, let's go to the vocabulary word fraction. Fractions, what is a fraction? Fractions can be everywhere. Fractions are in our daily lives all the time. My kindergartner uses the word fraction. She uses half. Can I have half? She doesn't even know what that really means as far as what it looks like written yet, but she is using the concept pieces of a whole. So if she says I want a half a cookie, she wants me to break it to 2 equal pieces from the same whole. So let's clean this off here. And so breaking apart the vocab, multiplication, fractions. So here's a fraction. Reviewing it, what does it mean? 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 pieces. Good. You need a fraction bar, which we are also going to use as a division bar. That's what it is. This means 1 out of 2 pieces, or you could think of it as 1 divided by 2. And we know what whole numbers are, okay? Those are our basics that we learned growing up, even from preschool. Whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look today at using models to multiply a whole number by a fraction. I've been doing a lot of walking now that I've been home, and I have a dog, and he needs walks. He needs one after this. And I walk him down the street to get him some exercise. And let's pretend Miss Bosco walks her dog a half a mile every day, and I do it for 5 days of the week. So I'm saying I walk the dog a half a mile each day for 5 days. That's what our objective is today. Now what does that mean? Well, I'm multiplying a fraction, a piece of a whole, by a whole number. I just talked about multiplication being addition, repeated addition. So I'm going to do that. And I want to use a picture today to help me. Now, I could sketch a picture of a dog and a leash, but that's not going to help me for this. What I want is a mathematical picture. So if I walk the dog, I should keep that up, a half mile for 5 days, it would look like this. Okay, well, let's make a little line here. 1, and let's stop there. So for 1 day, I only made it here. Okay? For 1 day, I went from 0 to here. So that's day 1. So here's 1 day. But I need to do this 5 times. Okay. So let's make a number line with a whole number of 2. And let's cut it again, because I'm cutting it in halves. So we have a number line starting at 0, 1/2, 1. This would be 1 1/2, 2. Now Miss Bosco walked 5 of these. So let's see how many I can get out of my number line. 0 to 1/2, first day. And then the second day I did the same distance. So another half would be day 2. And I can squeeze in here. This would be day 3. This would be day 4. And I actually need one more line here. I'm going to go 3. But here is all where I will stop, because this would be day 5. So how far did I get on my number line? This picture is going to help me with my reasoning. So here I am. Is 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and 5 days. Here's where I stopped because it was only 5 days. So let's see, this is 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, 2. This shows me that I walked 2 1/2 miles in 5 days. So I'm going to record that. I'll use grid. So here is where I'm done. And this benchmark on the number line is 2 1/2. So that's my answer. How far did I walk with my dog? 2 1/2 miles in 5 days. Let's use repeated addition. That might be something. I'm going to erase this just because I don't have that much board space. But this will help us. Number lines always help me when I've got to think about things further ahead, or have a starting point and moving down, or counting my jumps. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to use repeated addition with the same problem. I'm going to leave my answer up. All right. So let's do this. 1/2 written 5 times because it's a repeated addition. Twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals. Now I know that when I add up my fractions, I don't touch the denominator. That 2 is going to stay a 2. When we add and subtract fractions, we leave the denominator alone because we're not breaking up a whole. We're keeping the whole the same size. So this is going to look like this. Keep your 2. However, we are going to add up the pieces of the whole. So we're going to add up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's our answer. It looks kind of weird because we call that improper. When the numerator is larger than the denominator, that's an improper fraction. The simple way to solve it is, don't forget at the beginning of the lesson I said this is actually a division sign. So what this says is 5 divided by 2. I can probably do that in my head, but I want to show my